Hello, everybody. Welcome back again. This is episode number 9 of our Operator series. I'm very excited again by the guests we have today. We have Anastasia Allison, the founder and CEO of Kula Cloth, which is a reusable antimicrobial pea cloth that eliminates toilet paper waste in the wilderness and a very, very timely product for coronavirus and people going crazy on buying toilet paper. And so we'll get to Anastasia in a minute. And then we have Lanie. Lanie, please help me if I mispronounce it. Depasquale, which she is the director of digital at Kopari Beauty. They are a leading beauty brand. They focus on coconut oil-based products, including deodorant, balm, cleansers, toners, a lot of other good stuff as well. So to kick things off, like we did last week, I want to hear where everybody's dialing in from. I'm here in Orange County. Nick, Anastasia, Lanie, if you want to jump in as well. And I think Anastasia's going to even bust out the violin while we get where everybody's coming in from.
Yeah, you guys want me to go ahead and play a song?
Yeah, kick us off.
Okay, so, and I also, for the record, am north of Seattle. So that's where I'm from. So here we go.
Well done.
Let me play.
We needed that when things really got bad at the beginning, but better late than never.
Yeah.
So, thank you. And then we got some Kopari shout outs in the comments as well.
Yeah.
Well, that was awesome. Thank you. We've got people from all over. We have people from internationally dialing in as well, which I love to see. So as always, I've got a bunch of questions. We have a bunch of questions from all the registrants in advance. And then please, everybody chime in. Would love to get somebody on stage. Paul, I'm looking at you.
I have a bet. I have to win this bet. I know everyone's talking today. I do have a bet with Casey, so I would love to win it. We're in episode 9 heading into Memorial Day weekend. So if we can make that happen, that'd be fantastic. So
and we can do another prize. Whoever asks the most questions, maybe they can get one of the coveted Bob sweaters as well. So let's jump in here. So Anastasia, I love to camp. I've got a couple little ones. I've got my oldest son on the camping bandwagon with me. Would love to hear, how'd you come up with this idea?
So I am a former park ranger and police officer turned full-time entrepreneur. And many years ago, I started teaching a backpacking class at a women's backpacking workshop. And on my own personal backpacking trips, I was really frustrated. I would go out into these fragile alpine environments and I would just see these toilet paper blooms everywhere. So I started researching leave no trace options, and I found an article about people using a bandana as a pea cloth. And I thought, that's disgusting, but I'm a backpacking instructor, so I'm going to give it a try. So I bought this ugly old piece of fabric, started using it as a pea cloth, and was stunned to find that it was totally life-changing in the backcountry. I wasn't having to pack in and out a ton of toilet paper. And then I also wasn't drip drying, not to get too TMI, but that's not comfortable when you're out in the backcountry for 10 days. So I started carrying around this ugly old piece of fabric, and I was on the Wind River High Route in Wyoming. And I was actually taking a photograph of my scrap of fabric on my hiking pole as a joke to send to a friend. And in that instant, it was like a lightning bolt moment. I just thought to myself, why isn't that a real piece of gear? And I was a police officer at the time, and I wonder if I could design that. I didn't know how to sew. I had no experience starting a company whatsoever. And I went home, did a little bit of preliminary research, and immediately talked myself out of it because I saw dollar signs and a lot of fear. Fast forward to 2017, I essentially had a near-death experience, and those tend to be pretty big wake-up calls for people. And a lot of the fears that I realized were holding me in place from sort of pursuing the things I was excited about were all just manufactured in my head. And I said, you know what do I have to lose? I'm going to just try this thing out and see what I can come up with. And now here we are, a few years later. Kula's been around for 2 years now. I think we've shipped over 15,000 of them all over the world. This is what it looks like for anybody who's never seen one. We actually custom print the product. So one side of the fabric is a waterproof side. The other side is an antimicrobial absorbent side specifically designed for hygiene. So this side is meant to be beautiful. So you see it when it's attached to your backpack and you're hiking, and you would squat to pee in the woods, use this side just to sort of pat dry. And then how the Kula is designed is that it snaps to your backpack, and then also it double snaps in half, and that will actually keep it clean so that it's not touching your pack, or when you set it down on the ground, you aren't getting dirt all over it. And then one of the things I also noticed is that when I was backpacking with my little scrap of fabric, I would invariably wake up at 2 a.m. having to pee, and I could never find it. I would have hung it in a tree somewhere to dry. And so we added some reflective thread on the Kula so that you can find it at night with your headlamp. And that's what this little stripe is here. So yeah, it's been quite a journey, and really, really fun. And now a lot of people are using them at home. So that's been interesting.
Yeah, and I'd love to get deeper in that in a sec. And then Sean asking the questions, what's the fabric made out of?
Yeah, so the fabric, it's two different fabrics. So the outer fabric is a polyester fabric. We actually experimented with like bamboo and cotton, but those proved not to be durable enough for taking outside. The absorbent side is actually made of some absorbent, it's bamboo fibers and cotton fibers as well. And then what makes it antimicrobial is that it has a silver treatment to it. So not silver nanoparticles, it's actually silver ions, without getting too technical.
Oh. And again, another question from Sean Spicer, not to be confused as the former communications director at the White House, says, what's the retail price?
So the Artist Series Kulas retail for $22, and we give 15% of the profit to the artists themselves. We also do Kulas for a cause, and we give a portion of those products proceeds to nonprofits. And then our stock prints are $20 each.
Awesome. And then a couple more. I like it. We're getting deep into the Kula cloth world. Things don't always go in this direction. So from Rachel, I guess, it doesn't become smelly?
So it doesn't. Now, that being said, everybody's body chemistry is different. So if no product can claim to be completely odor proof, the antimicrobialness of the product does make it odor resistant. And I have people who use it and never notice anything. Now, if you were to take your nose and smush it into the Kula, which I would not recommend, you might notice a smell. But again, any sort of odor is going to depend on personal body chemistry and then also your hydration level. If you're super dehydrated out there hiking on the trail, there might be a different odor than if you're super hydrated.
Perfect. Well, thank you. And then Shannon asked about manufacturing. John asked around advertising. Great questions. We're going to get to that in a minute. And then the last one from Elena, is it washable?
It is. So you can throw it in your washing machine. If you do, make sure that you snap the snap so it doesn't get snagged. But what I usually recommend to people is just hand washing it. It literally takes 2 seconds in your sink. I use some sort of a really gentle biodegradable soap, like a Bronner's peppermint soap, put a couple drops on it, rinse it off, and it takes about 20 seconds, hang it up to dry, and you're good to go. In the backcountry, same thing. You just want to be at least 200 feet away from a natural water source because you don't want to be adding any soap or urine or anything like that into a lake or a stream.
Awesome.
I have a question. Where were you a park ranger?
So I was a park ranger on the Hood Canal here in Washington State, and I did that for about 7.5 years, and then got laid off from that job. And I actually worked for 5.5 years as a railroad police officer, randomly enough.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Entrepreneur, police officer,
violinist.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so Lanie, you've been at Kopari for 3.5 years. I've always been very impressed by how you guys have gone to market and the branding and everything. We've seen quite a big surge in beauty products since coronavirus hit. What have you seen from the Kopari angle?
Yeah. First off, I just want to say I love questions, so I'd love to double down on the giveaway, and if whoever wins the most questions, they'll also get like some free Kopari products.
Ooh, okay.
And a Kula.
And a Kula. Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, this is recorded, so this is great. All right, so we got a Bob sweatshirt, we got some Kopari products, and a Kula.
But for your question, the beauty products, yeah, we've definitely seen while like some essentials are always, this has gone up during this time. So a lot of our products, like our deodorant and our skin hydrators, like any sort of like body moisturizer, those things have definitely, like search as a general in beauty, those things have gone up right away. So like it kind of like went in ebbs and flows, right? So those types of essentials, like the stock up and save, those things were really hot at the very onset of this. And then people kind of settled into this new lifestyle. And so then they got bored. And now like DIY, like hair masks and face masks and these spa days at homes have really gone up in search volume. So like our coconut face mask went up with sales. So I think we just are, it's like kind of going with what people are thinking about and focusing on during their time and like transferring to a different lifestyle.
That's great. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, if we can get a little bit deeper there, I think it's fascinating. What has historically been a bestseller, and then as things have changed, what have you seen really surge? I'm sure there's a handful of products that were maybe slow movers, collecting a lot of dust at your fulfillment center, and now we're just flying off the shelves. Yeah,
that's exactly what happened. So our coconut deodorant has been our #1 bestseller since we launched it, and that actually has stayed true through COVID. But then a few of our other products, like our coconut melt, which is just it's our OG product. It's our 100% organic coconut oil, and that has, where it had dipped off on sales, is skyrocketed, and we actually went through like 8 months of stock in 1 month. So, and people, I guess, there a lot of things here. So we're hypothesizing why, but a lot of it is like that DIY hair mask, those spa days at homes, as well as like hand hydrating. So a lot of people were washing their hands a ton. And so they were looking for some different hydration options. That's great. So I want to get into the marketing angle soon, but something you mentioned here, I'd love to go in from the Kopari lens and then jump over to the Kula cloth world. From a manufacturing standpoint, first, congrats to sell 8 months of inventory in a month is always a good thing to see. Where do you manufacture, and then how are you backfilling all that supply? So touching on some stuff that I don't know a ton about, but we manufacture we source our coconut oil in the Philippines. And so that's where we get that information. Then that product, and then we manufacture here in the United States. And so the backfill has been a little bit, this is like, I literally after this, we're going into a meeting to talk about low inventory of some of these now top products. And so we're just scrambling and trying to get that backfilled and trying to source source the components and the product. And yeah, it's great news that we went through it very quickly, but also from an operations standpoint, it's kind of a nightmare.
I bet.
Yeah.
And Anastasia, what about you? Where do you manufacture and create all the products?
Yeah, everything's manufactured here in the United States, including the fabric itself. So we have two different production studios that we work with. One's in Pennsylvania, one is in Colorado. So our custom, like the artist series like this, these are made in Colorado, and then our stock prints are made in Pennsylvania.
Okay, great. And then the fulfillment centers that you utilize with us, with ShipBob, which ones are you in?
So right now I'm just in Grapevine in Texas. That was sort of like the most centrally located because originally most of my orders were coming from the Pacific Northwest. When I started this company, if I'm being completely honest, the first advertising I did for Kula was literally posting it to my personal Facebook page. That was it. I mean, we're talking like no clue what I was doing. And so the product and the company itself has grown almost completely organically. And because I am pretty active in the outdoor community here in the Pacific Northwest, in the beginning, we had a very high concentration of sales here. Now it's all over the place.
That's great. And then, so if we're going to start going deeper into the marketing side, you mentioned a lot of it was word of mouth. You've seen a huge surge, I know, in the last couple months. So if you could share a little bit more there on where are you seeing this surge? What are some of the interesting things you're seeing? I know that there was a question, let me find it, from Elena, do you sell bigger ones for dogs? I'm sure you're getting some pretty interesting questions that you weren't expecting a few months ago. So what are you seeing there?
Yeah, like, you know, and I actually have designed a larger Kula. It's not on our website yet. I'm actually also in the process of designing a little bag using our special antimicrobial material that will actually help people carry trash off of the trails. That's one of the big issues is people just leave bags of dog poop everywhere because they don't have anything that they want to put them in to carry it off the trail. So I'm getting all sorts of new product ideas, and people are really excited about finding ways to live more sustainably. And I think that's a shift, and also really exciting at the same time. We sold, so our March sales were more than our November and December sales combined. So that's like all of Christmas for us. And we're a relatively small company. So it was a huge surge of orders, which for us is a big deal because getting inventory and trying to figure out how to scale things very quickly when you aren't necessarily prepared for that has been a fun challenge to have.
How did you approach that? How were you able to tackle that?
Well, what's really interesting is, and I have a very sort of, I would say, a pragmatic woo approach to entrepreneurship, where I really believe that things are happening for a reason. And last year, I was sort of forced into buying a fabric order that was way out of my comfort zone. So it was a much bigger order than I would have ever otherwise placed. And I don't want to get into the details of why I did it, but it felt exciting, but it also felt like, whoa, am I going to be able to go through this much fabric? But I really just sort of trusted it and said, okay, we've got holidays coming up, like I'm going to need this fabric. Well, the holidays came and went, and we still had a lot of inventory. And then COVID hit, and all of a sudden it became very clear to me as to why I need all of this inventory sitting there. So I had made some good decisions early on. One of the things from the very beginning too is that I've always tried to act like Kula is a big company, even when it's not. So instead of making decisions from a place of lack or fear, like, oh, I can't afford this much fabric, I just try to stay open to there's a way that I can do this. And I just have to sort of trust that path and know that all the pieces will fill in if I can sort of let go a little bit and not worry so much.
Fake it till you make it, right?
Fake it till you make it.
I'm going to get on motivational calls with you every week.
Oh, this is like this, what I love more than anything is like, it just fires me up. I get so excited.
We have a question here from Victor, and then Lanie, I want to jump over to you with the handful. So from Victor, how big was that order and out of the comfort zone? And you don't necessarily need to share exactly what it was, but maybe on a percentage basis, how much bigger?
Yeah, well, and actually, I don't mind sharing at all. So for us, if you look at my product, it's a 6x6 product. So if you have an apparel manufacturer, placing an order for thousands of yards of fabric is not out of the realm of possibility. But when your product is 6x6, placing an order for thousands of yards of fabric is a pretty big deal. I mean, that's 100,000 kulas. And so the order I ended up having to place was around 600 yards of fabric, which is the equivalent of 40 or 50,000 of my product, which for a small business, that's pretty big. And our fabric is relatively pricey fabric. So it was somewhere in the realm of 5-digit purchase fabric order wise, which for a small company, there was definitely some excitement in placing that order, to say the least.
I bet. Well, hey, thanks for sharing that. And Lanie, to get into the digital marketing side with Kopari, because again, I know you guys have been around for a long time. It's something that you oversee. We've got quite a few questions here from Sean and Alex and a handful of other people. So first is, I believe you all are on Shopify or Shopify Plus, correct?
Shopify Plus, yep.
Okay, great. And from a marketing perspective, the question from Sean is, do you use a digital marketing firm or do you all do it yourselves?
Yeah, we use a few different firms right now. So we have a firm that does all of our paid social. So they handle Facebook, Snapchat, and then we are going to start dabbling in TikTok and see how that goes. And then we have a different agency that handles right now our paid search and our display ads.
Nice. And you oversee all of the agencies?
Yeah, so I'm the one that's overseeing the agencies, and I've been at Kopari for 3.5 years, which is nothing, but really for as young a company that's only 5 years old, I am definitely a veteran. So we've gone in and out with having things in-house. So we had a paid media specialist in-house, and then have tried that, and then also tried it just being full agency. So
another question that we get often is, why outsource fulfillment versus do it myself? And I'm sure you think about that a lot on the digital marketing front. So if you could share a little bit of the pros and cons that you weighed of, why you should bring all digital marketing in-house, and why you, at least as of right now, you're utilizing, experts on the agency front.
So I think the biggest pro for using an agency is that I always try and tap into whatever they're doing with their other partners and trying to see, they get because when you kind of get narrow focus into one brand, you try things and then you don't really think outside the box if you're really just beating one trail. And then, so I always just say hey, what are you seeing with your other clients? What are you seeing that's working? What's not working? So, cause we're always open to try anything, whether or not we're very much a testing mentality. So we'll try anything and heck, let's see if it works. If it doesn't, then move on to the next thing. So that's been that is why I really believe in agencies and being a part of that. And then I also am a firm believer in, we also have multiple agencies that kind of separate and do the different channels. Cause I think I get a little bit nervous when sometimes you have all your eggs in one basket with an agency. And I'd rather them find people that are really proficient in one thing and let them be the experts in it and let them take the rails on that. And then I will find another agency that can do really good for SEO or for paid search. It was just exactly the same reason that we have a 3PL, because we don't, I don't think we're ever going to do it better than they are.
Yeah, that's a great point. Again, we hear that a lot as well, where it's, you're not only should we be experts in this specific thing, but we're learning a lot across a very large amount of e-commerce merchants. And so you're able to take all of these learnings and accelerate the innovation and the improvements even more. And that's what you're seeing here as well, because I'm sure that their clients are doing some pretty crazy things, and you just want to steal that.
It's exactly why we're dabbling now in TikTok. Like, our agency is in like a beta, and they were able to connect directly with TikTok, and they're one of like the first few agencies that have business access and able to get on their ad platform. So we're able to try that. Whereas if we were just doing it ourselves, I don't think we would have gotten that opportunity.
Nice. And so we'd love to get more into specific channels in a minute, but here's actually a question from Nick, and Shannon's, I think, is related. So from Nick, it's how do you handle the amount of creative needed across the different channels? And then with Shannon, which is similar, how do you ensure consistency?
So content creation is always an issue. Channels just constantly need content to be pumped out. And so we have tried in-house, and nowhere near the amount of just volume can get out the door. And then now we have the agency that we're using for paid social, which is Mute 6, which I know somebody else asked. They have their own in-house creative, and it's been like a game changer for us, because they can turn around just little nuggets of content that if we just think of an idea on a call, and they're able to pop it out, and they're able to animate it so that it really works well on Facebook, because they really like the movement. That was our number one need, and they have been able to help us with that. And I will always outsource that, because if I have multiple people working on content, and they can really keep up with the demand, for sure. And then so the other question about consistency is something that Kopari has gone back and forth with. So when it was in-house with our marketing team, there was a lot of players making opinions and decisions about what's going out the door, because we really wanted to be Kopari branded. But sometimes that's not necessarily what translate and what works on some of these channels. I think you have to be a little bit flexible. What we've learned is we have to be a little bit flexible with consistency and on brand messaging, because sometimes Facebook, if an ad works and it doesn't look completely on brand, we have the conversation about, does that really matter? Because more importantly, we want to see some efficiency, and we want the channel to be successful.
And then the question here, you might not want to share this, but from Sean, and somebody else asked as well, what's the budget for marketing each month? And then maybe, if you won't share the specific budget, how you kind of carve up how you spend across the different channels, like you mentioned, in Google, Facebook, etc.
So while I don't have a specific number for the budget, we are, based on the current macro environment, we've pulled back on all of our spend. So anything that wasn't really efficient for us. And so we do a lot of direct response ads. So we're really looking for that sales conversion versus any sort of brand awareness. And we've gotten really tight on our ROAS goal. So we actually have a 1.7 ROAS goal, which has been a bit of a shift to change, because we just really need to see that payback on the customer. That's about 80% of our total spend across all the channels, just because it's damn good at finding those audiences and working for us.
And I think what you mentioned with the agency, and a good example also of utilizing an agency, and an agency is not the best solution for everybody. You guys are spending more than, let's say, Kula or maybe others, but it's so easy to become distracted by the new cool channel like TikTok. And if now you're spending 10, 20, 50% of your time testing this new channel, you're ignoring what's making you your money, which is often, let's just say, Facebook or Instagram or something like that. But by utilizing the agency, you might be able to scale yourself well there. because they do have the person in-house or the people in-house that will help optimize that channel and test that out. And then if it does start to hit some scale or drive strong ROI, then you can kind of double down there.
Yeah.
So let's see, we got a bunch of questions in the questions section as well. I guess before we get to some, so from Tim, how did you find the agency you were looking for, Lanie? I'm sure it was trial and error for a few, but how did you approach that?
So for this new agency, Mute6, which we have only been with them since the beginning of the year, we were really looking for somebody that had in-house creative as a part of their portfolio, which is a little bit harder to find. And then word of mouth. I'm in a bunch of different, we just like take these webinars and different like Slack groups and Facebook groups that we're in, and we just always ask for people's testimonials and advice about agencies that they're using. And I think there's something nice about also being open to looking at different agencies after a while. We were with an agency for a few years, and it felt like it was, we just lost that like drive and that newness of like thinking of new ideas. And so it was time for us to move. And so while they might not be a bad agency, it just was time for us to move on and try something new and different. You kind of get a fresh pair of eyes and a fresh pair of minds to think about, the problems that you face every day.
Nice. And so Anastasia, let's jump back into the supply chain, then we'll probably get back into marketing again. So a question from, I'm apologizing in advance, Vinayak. How effective is a 3PL partner in saving on shipping costs? And maybe you can talk about the time saving element as well.
Yeah, I think the time saving element for me is sort of priceless. At the point where I switched over to using 3PL, just to sort of paint the picture for everybody, I was on vacation in Death Valley with an inventory of Kula cloths in the back of my car, my label printer, my laptop sitting outside of a Denny's in Pahrump, Nevada, trying to print labels and get to a post office. So I hope that paints this like ragged entrepreneur picture there. So that was sort of the rock bottom for me, where I realized that very fortunately, the business was growing too quickly for me to be able to sustain any sort of a personal life whatsoever. And I also realized that if the founder of a company is spending her day packing envelopes, then there's a lot of much bigger picture things that aren't getting done, and that I'm ultimately preventing the growth of my company. I sort of jokingly would say that I didn't think that the CEO or the founder of Nike was stuffing shoes in boxes and packing those. So even though I sort of was in this fledgling stage, I tried to be open to thinking about growing. So for me, the time savings has been huge. I got my life back. And then to me, that was the most value. Shipping a Kula cloth is not an expensive product to ship. So shipping wise, it's been great, but getting my life back is something that I can't really put a value on.
That was great. I would love a video of you in that situation in Death Valley, hoping that your computer doesn't melt.
It was pretty bad. And I did get a few messages from people saying, why is my Kula shipping from Nevada? I was just like, I had to explain that.
That's awesome. So here's a question from Alex. Do you sell the same product on Amazon? I believe that was for Lanie, but for Anastasia, let's start with you. Do you sell solely through your Kula Cloth website, or what are the other channels that you sell in?
Yeah, so we sell mostly through our website. So it's mostly direct to consumer. But what's also kind of fun is that we do custom Kulas for other people, like artists, or we have there's a company called Garage Grown Gear, and they're an online retailer, and they design their own custom Kula. So there are a few retailers that sell their own custom designs of our product on their websites. But primarily we're working directly with the consumer. And then also we're in the process of sort of slowly building up the retail side of our business as well. We're in a bunch of outdoor gear stores right now, some little gift stores. I really don't try too hard on that side of things. I probably get a few new wholesale customers a week without trying, and that's going great for me right now. So we're in the process of hopefully going to be in some much larger outdoor retail stores pretty soon as well.
That's great. And then Lanie, what about you all at Kopari?
So we sell, our channel is responsible for Amazon, and then our direct-to-consumer on KopariBeauty.com. But then we have another team that handles all of our retail, and so we sell to some of the big providers like Sephora and Ulta, Nordstrom, Free People. Yeah.
How do you, and some of this might be outside of what you focus on primarily, but maybe even just between your core website and Amazon, how do you decide which products to sell on which channels, and then how do you view Amazon as a complement to your core website?
So Amazon, definitely different buyers on there, and we know we can't quite quantify this, but we absolutely know that there are some people that probably find our website and find our product, but then end up purchasing on Amazon. That Amazon Prime business is like successful for some reason. So a lot of people love to go and shop on there. So they'll search for our product, and our bestseller is the coconut deodorant. And then same thing goes for on Amazon. It's just, it was like the #1 selling deodorant for a while, and then we got a lot of competition on there. But we just kind of let Amazon, we typically allow D2C, our KopariBeauty.com, to have the lead on the products. We have it up for about 3 months, and then we typically add it to our Amazon catalog, just like an internal decision that we've made. And then, but we do.
To repeat that, you said that you will launch a product on Kopari, and for more or less 3 months, it will be sold exclusively there, and then you'll add it to Amazon?
Yes. Yeah, not including the retailers. The retailers also get it at the same time that we do, but we do give ourselves a 3 months lead for Amazon before it goes on Amazon.
Okay, that's awesome.
And then I will say that Amazon is a great way. There's a lot of products that we don't sell well on our site have done well on Amazon. Just, I think, a different set of buyers and different types of things that they're looking for.
That's interesting. I wonder if maybe there's more general search volume for some of those items. And
a lot of the kits too, like value kits that Amazon really likes, Amazon buyer really likes. And then just to be transparent, a lot of our holiday kits that run their course on our site actually sell throughout the entire year on Amazon. They just don't care about, we have like a Kiss Me Under the Mistletoe kit that people still buy in January, February, March, that just aren't worried about the holiday messaging on the product.
Interesting. Probably be some interesting psychology stuff to dig in there. So question from Alex, from a profitability standpoint, which is more profitable, Amazon or Shopify?
Shopify.
Short and sweet, I like it. And then for Patty, how do you split advertising, and maybe, and I might add to this question too, how do you split your advertising push between Kopari.com and your Amazon storefront? And so I'm curious to hear how you split not just the money that you spend to drive the traffic, but also time.
So time, and you mean like resources internally, just like managing the store?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say my primary focus, just because there is, will be more towards KopariBeauty.com. There's more value here. Amazon, while it's a great channel for us and it's been really profitable and really successful, there's something about owning a customer through, and then you're able to increase the LTV, and we are able to get them in part of our loyalty program. We're able to email them. So I would, looking at the business as a whole, I would rather them purchase on KopariBeauty.com, just because then we are able to own that relationship. So that's where we spend the majority of our time. In terms of spend, we spend on Amazon advertising as just percentage of that business. That's how we keep the Amazon spends. And we have, for COVID specifically, Amazon has gone through a lot of ups and downs in terms of like delivery time, and we shifted. So we are FBA, which is fulfilled by Amazon, which allows us to have that Prime badge, but they were taking like months to get the product to be delivered. So we switched to a fulfilled by merchant on some of our products. So then that goes actually from Amazon through our Shopify store. And then we are shipping those products out to the Amazon customers from our fulfillment center. So it's been kind of an up and down type of thing. So we have pulled back most of our spends on Amazon. We were doing a lot of like non-branded terms, and now we are just trying to protect our branded terms. And so we've pulled back spend dramatically. It's only like 10% of the revenue there. So, but we're still seeing success. But we just have to like really, we're trying to pull spend to really focus on what's working and what's efficient.
How did you handle customer communication on those FBA orders when it was taking months to deliver?
We didn't. Customers we just saw sales drop dramatically because Amazon does a nice job of showing the customer upfront how long it's going to take for it to get to them. But these, and FBA customers, like these Prime customers, are just so used to the 2-day turnaround that they just, I don't know, we hear it across Amazon as a whole. I know that they struggled with that. So we didn't hear directly from customers, but then Amazon has, anyone who plays in the Amazon space, you know that you win the buy box. There could be a bunch of different sellers for the product, but whoever wins the buy box ends up getting the sale. And so Amazon finally changed their algorithm a little bit, because they would always give preferential treatment to FBA because they want to fulfill the product themselves and they get the majority of the sale. But they were allowing some merchants to do like their FBM, so that just because we were able to turn around and ship it quicker than they were. I think they got a big warehouse shut down in Florida that was really impacting all of their shipments.
Interesting. Okay. That's helpful. So we've got some more logistics questions, and then I actually want to get back to some of the retail wholesale stuff, which is obviously in very interesting times right now. So a question from Alex: do you use ShipBob to ship FBM? I know Kopari, we don't work with you guys currently, but we do FBM. With Rachel, does ShipBob have a 2-day delivery option? Yes, we do. And then a question from Vinayak to both entrepreneurs: do you ship internationally? I'll read the rest of the question in a minute. So something that we're actually announcing tomorrow is we now have a Canadian and a European fulfillment center. So we're really excited about that. And we're going to continue to expand our fulfillment network very quickly. And so we ship to every country pretty much out there already from our 8 centers across the US. But again, now we have a location in both Canada and Ireland. And we'll probably be adding another one in Europe before the end of the year as well. So excited to announce that. And so back to the question: do you ship internationally? How does your 3PL help you optimize cost of shipping there? And how do you manage customs from shipping internationally as well? And so if you guys want to take this even more broadly, just on how you manage international, that'd be great. So Anastasia, you want to start with you, and then we can jump back over to Lanie?
Yeah, we ship internationally all over the world. Things have been a little bit interesting over the last few weeks, I would say, with especially orders going to like Australia. That has been slightly interesting with just delays. But honestly, there is no difference like on my website. I don't have to really do anything special through ShipBob in order to ship internationally, other than make sure that my tariff numbers are updated and all the information about the product is in there. Otherwise, ShipBob handles everything for me. So it's really seamless. And actually the price that ShipBob charges to ship internationally is less than if I would print up a USPS label and do it myself in my personal office. So there's that.
Awesome. And Lanie?
Yeah, we Kopari used to ship we haven't done a full like translating services or translating for currency. So we were shipping to Australia, Canada, and the UK. But because, just as Anastasia was just mentioning, we actually turned that off, and we are temporarily not shipping because it's gotten like crazy expensive. And then also for the customer, it's taking much longer. I was just talking with a colleague about it, and they said that it's because there's less commercial flights that are flying, so they're unable to get the products internationally. And so just to save on customer inquiries, because it was taking weeks for the product to get to the customer, we've turned that off. We actually turned off expedited shipping on our site just because we were not able to hit those deadlines, and we just don't want the expectations of the customer that they're going to get their product in a certain time frame, and it's just unpredictable at this moment.
Nice. And then here's a question from Paul. And Lanie, you all might have some stuff here. I'm not sure what you do from an influencer standpoint, but how do you approach influencer marketing? What's worked well? What hasn't? What surprised you the most?
Yeah, God, I feel like influencers is just a mixed bag. There's a company that we look to a lot for inspiration, and they use influencers all the time. And we have hypothesized, and it's not fair to say if you see a company doing something necessarily they see success, but they've been doing it for a really long time. So we're guessing that they're seeing success with it. And they play in the influencer space a lot of micro, a lot of these big guys. And we have been working on it for a while. It's just hard for us. I'm not sure what it might be, but we just haven't been able to find an influencer, because we're also, as I was mentioning earlier, we're very much direct response. So we're looking for this conversion for a sale. Some influencer plays are just going to be about brand awareness, and if that works for your brand, then that's awesome. We just haven't found somebody that really nails it in from a sales perspective. And so we're trying different things with codes and links and affiliate, and we're just testing and trying over and over again. I don't have this great success story for influencers, but it just, yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We'll find like maybe out of 20 influencers, one that is ROI positive. And so we push a little bit more on that, but then that ends up petering out. So not really great stories about that from a Kopari's perspective.
Which I actually think is helpful as well, because I think people are often looking for, hey, what's that one thing that's going to skyrocket my sales, and I can just do that. Or, oh, influencer marketing is a thing, we can just go do that. But it's not. It's still like very much the wild west. And so a question I have for you on the influencers is, because you mentioned you all focus more on like the direct marketing, which means you want to see ROI within that first purchase, and within that day or within that click. From an influencer standpoint, and I'm sure the conversations are all over the place, but how do they typically charge you? Is it on performance? Is it just on a post? Is it on an impression basis? How are they trying to charge you for that?
That was what kind of blew me away once we started working with some influencers, is that they really didn't have, influencers will reach out to you all the time saying, we want to work with your brand. And then they'll have this like arbitrary number that they want to charge like between $2,000 and $5,000 for a post. And we're always like, okay, but like, we want to be able to start tracking sales and just see how you're doing it. And they like, even influencers with agents, they just didn't have good solutions here. And they didn't really seem to understand that side of it. But like for them, it's just so easy. I think some brands just will pay and don't really necessarily look to see how that impacts their sales. And so we really tried to dig deeper. And we just, we've tried different things like with links that we're able, with UTM parameters, to be able to track sales. We've done coupon codes, but those inevitably get like leaked out to these coupon sites. So that's been a struggle. Affiliate has been one of the avenues that we've been looking at right now. And so it's interesting to, instead of just paying a flat fee for somebody to post, we're approaching them saying that they'll get commission on their sales. So it's a little bit of a lot of like these big influencers won't play in that game at all because they can make money just posting. But some of these like micro ones we're able to start there, and then they can prove out that they're successful in getting people to the website and to buying.
That's great. And I think another good thing there is you know, a lot of people I think will look up to a Kopari or Kula and really want that's their aspiration to get to where you all are, and everything looks rosy and smooth sailing from the outside, and it never is, no matter how the company's running. And you have to take a lot of bets, and of course you can minimize your risk, but you have to make some bets and try some new things to see what works, or else you'll never know. And so whether it's influencer, and also just because something doesn't work today doesn't mean it won't work in the future, and maybe the approach of the person was wrong, and so, or the messaging or the product or the timing, and so just something to think about.
Yeah.
And then Anastasia, it seems like, my guess is you're the biggest influencer on the Kula brand.
Yeah, you know, so Kula is just this weird anomaly where I have these social media influencers who like advertise for my product without really me having to ask them to do so, and I don't have to pay them. So they've become friends. And so I guess one sort of woo piece of advice that I would love to give everybody is that you can always find the feeling of where you want to go and like what you want your business to look like. You can find that feeling now. And so what I've tried to do with Kula is that even when I was having one sale a day, I would sit there, and this just probably makes me sound a little nuts, but I would sit there and feel the feeling of like all the thousands of orders that I would someday get, like knowing that those people were out there and knowing that there was a way to reach them and not needing to know how that was going to happen. And I really just like felt the feeling of it and was just totally okay right there. Like it was just felt so good to me that this was all going to happen. And then along the way, I've just watched as the things that I envisioned in the very beginning actually started to unfold for me. So, I mean, I even wrote onto a board, you know, like hiking celebrities using Kula cloth. Well, that happens. I mean, that really happened. I wrote, you know, essential piece of gear on a board. I wrote Kula in REI, and I would just sit there and like find the feeling of it and never need to be somewhere different than I was. And I think that is I feel like in business, we're always looking at where we are and wishing that we were somewhere different. And I think that if we could find the feeling of where we want to go right now, then we're raising up our energy to the frequency of all these crazy ideas that are going to start to come to us. I mean, today I literally launched something called the Kula Academy, and we're like doing classes and getting people involved. We did an online Pictionary game last week for people. So we're doing all these like fun, crazy things. If you looked at our Instagram, you would probably laugh because it's ridiculous. So I just would really encourage people to sort of like have fun wherever they are. And even if you aren't, you know, I'm not even remotely close to as big as where Kopari is. You know, I hear her talking about like having marketing agencies, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's like literally me and my sister like doing posts on Instagram. But that's just where we are right now, and that's fine. And I love hearing stories about people who are really successful and knowing that that's all coming for Kula too. So yeah,
I love that. As Nick wrote, he says he's ready to run through a brick wall. So and I think something you nailed there that I try to do a better job of all the time is just enjoying where you are at that point in the journey, because a lot of these times you're going to look back on and just be so proud of, or smile on, or laugh at, and be like, what the heck were we doing then?
Yeah,
it's how it's going to get you to that next phase.
You guys are honestly lucky that I haven't cried yet on this call. Like when I think about where I was a few years ago, which was a very negative place, and then I just look at, I mean, just even being on this call with all of you is like a miracle to me. So yeah, it's take stock of where you are and just wake up every day. And if you can, I'm going to give Nick another brick wall to run through here. If you can wake up every day and feel like you won the infinity lottery of life, like everything's possible. Like I wake up every day and I'm like, I won the infinity lottery. There's like infinite things that could happen today, and I just am going to be open to them. So
I'm gonna make sure I just I clip this right here.
Just listen to it every morning, Nick.
I think I'm gonna have to.
So I'm going to not get in my own way, and that means I'm not going to ask really any more questions, because I think that's a great way for us to get into our last question. But before that, I appreciate Anastasia, you, Lanie, Nick, thanks for putting this together. Everybody in the audience for joining us. We're here every Wednesday, 3 o'clock Eastern time. I think next week we're going to do Thursday for the first time. We're going to mix things up a little bit. We're going to actually have our CEO, Drew, join us, and we've got a lot of great announcements coming, and our Chief Logistics Officer, Todd Bills, who is this tall, intimidating operations guru who will hide behind a screen, and so you can all ask whatever questions you want. But last question I have for you all, Anastasia, we'll start with you, and then jump over to you, Lanie. And Anastasia, maybe you kind of already answered a lot of this, but what is your number one piece of advice for everybody else, dialing in today?
My number one piece of advice is to focus on how you feel, because that's what you're going to attract into your life. And there is nothing more important to me than every day that I wake up and I ask myself, like, what state of receiving am I in today? And if I start my morning off by instantly going into worry and fear, I know that the things that come into my life are going to match that. And I think things like meditation or appreciation or gratitude are things that people sort of say, well, I don't need to do that. I just need to like get right in there and fix a problem. And it's those little things where you're deliberately and intentionally choosing the energy that you're putting out into the world that dictates what comes back to you. And then give a lot. So I think right now there's a lot of people who are experiencing a lot of fear and they're contracting. And I think that that's taking them out of the flow. And so even when it might feel a little bit uncomfortable to you, it doesn't have to be big. Just keep giving and being of service to others and be kind.
I love that. Lanie?
Yeah, well, this is my piece of advice, and it's going to sound so much more boring after that one, but mine would be to test. Testing, this is a little bit more business specific, but testing has been our like lifeline on Kopari. It's been something that I've just found complete joy in and success in from a business perspective. Is we are just try things and test them, and you're going to hear advice from a bunch of different brands, and like you touched on earlier, they probably maybe don't know what they're doing, but it also maybe works for them, but it doesn't work for you. So we have like a testing platform that we've been using, and we will A/B test all the time. Basically, every send, everything on the site has been tested, and just let your customers tell you what they want and what they need and what works for them.
Completely agree. And just because somebody does something doesn't mean it's going to work for you. And you never know until you try it. So again, Anastasia, Lanie, really appreciate you taking the time. This was awesome.
It was so fun. Thanks for having me.
This was very fun.
This is awesome. And I'll follow up with the winners. It looks like Sean, Rachel, and Vinayak. I have to double check because there's way too many questions that came in, and I mixed up a couple of Rachel's. So I need to make sure. But this is great. We'll follow up with you guys with a cool cloth, some Kopari products, and the infamous Bob sweatshirt as well.
Oh.
I want to see that next time somebody come on stage with their Bob sweatshirt too. So, but yeah, definitely thank you everyone. And I'm not sure if Casey, you want to finish off with anything else, but
thank you.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Yeah, thanks
everyone.
so much. So fun.
Bye, guys.
Bye.